Live, but wanted to bring that to you as soon as we got it. Now, a maths teacher from London has been named as a COVID hero thanks to his efforts to keep young people learning during the COVID-19 pandemic. Jamie Frost, who teaches at Tiffin School in Kingston upon Thames, set up a free maths tuition website which is now being used by students around the world. He was also nominated in the top 10 for the Global Teacher Award. Not bad for someone who failed his 11 plus. Hello, Jamie.
Hello, it's a pleasure to be with you.
Thank you for this and your time and what you've been doing with maths. What's it like, first of all, to have your work recognised internationally?
Really exciting, just to be congratulated by Boris Johnson today, and there was a cheer in the Commons as well. And to be honest, all I want is just for as many students to be using it as possible. So I'm just thrilled that it's been used in various countries around the world, and particularly in the UK.
Tell us what it is. What do you do on there, Dr. Frost Maths?
So it's a combination of a few things. It's firstly a kind of set of teaching resources used probably around about 3/4 of the schools in the UK. So they're kind of teaching PowerPoints and such, which are quite popular in lessons. But you've also got this kind of online interactive platform where teachers can set work to students, and then the students get feedback on each question, etc. And the teachers can monitor the students' work. The students can practice independently as well. So it's a kind of suite of tools as well, but all for mathematics.
Why did you set it up?
I set it up about 8 years ago when I started teaching. So it was initially like me posting resources I'd made for class, but I kind of expanded into the sort of online interactive kind of sphere because I felt that it's just wanted to cater to all students. As I was a student, as a school student, I wasn't really catered to that well. I was quite a bright mathematician. I was just kind of allowed to get on with my own investigations and just get on with it. And I kind of wished that as a student I'd been supported better. And at the opposite end of the spectrum, you have students who maybe not so strong at maths who they're kind of floundering in mathematics, and they just want kind of good math resources. And that's why I think it's really important to make sure it's free so it's accessible to all students, regardless of income.
What's this about you failing your 11 plus? We've got to ask about that.
I applied, in fact, I applied to Tiffin. I did the 11 plus and I didn't get through.
What, where you work now?
Yeah, and I ended up teaching there. Can you believe it?
You were like, I will get in, but at a later stage, and I'll be paid for it. No, but I mean, what did that do to you in terms of your confidence? We're talking today, of course, about exams and people trying to get on with tests in the current circumstances.
To be honest, the school I went to, I absolutely loved it, and at the time, it wasn't not getting through 11 plus wasn't really a big deal for me. Even though I was a bog standard comprehensive, I did absolutely fine, made lots of good friends there, and feel like it didn't sort of impact my future really.
But do you feel when we're thinking about tests now and the pressure that people are under, what do you make of the idea of exams going ahead this year after the year that we've had?
Yeah, it's a very political issue. I acknowledge.
Well, you now talk to the Prime Minister, so you're you've got the ears of the right people.
My personal opinion, I think, is that we should try and press ahead with some kind of exams because it's a lesser of two evils. I think having exams is better than centre assessed grades. However, I feel like that we should compensate for the situation as much as possible, whether it's taking into account how much time off school students have had, sort of making things easier by giving resources to help students or making it clearer what's going to be on the exam or reduce syllabus. I think it's those kind of practical strategies which I think the way forward personally.
Do you think though, I mean, especially with something like maths, which of course is compulsory, but also people do really struggle with. What do you make of the anxiety that those sorts of tests may be causing, especially if you have had huge interruptions in your teaching?
Yeah, and I completely acknowledge that, and I completely acknowledge that students are going to be very anxious about these exams. But I just think it's the lesser of two evils, that the only other alternative is for teachers just to use what data they have, which might be slightly limited at the moment, to kind of come up with grades. And I think just having some actual formal exams for students to do is really the best way forward.
I mean, maths was never the easiest from my perspective, but it was something you had to persevere with and find a way through. I just wanted to know from you with why you do what you do. You've had another career. Did you work as an investment banker when you came out of university and then through PhD into teaching?
That's correct.
Tell us a bit about that journey and why you ended up teaching.
So I went to work for Morgan Stanley. I was in New York for a bit, and I was basically developing kind of bond trading algorithms for traders. So I was in the sort of technology side of things, and I just think for some people it's the right career for them, but it wasn't for me. Just kind of feeling like part of a massive machine and feeling like I'm making an institution already with a lot of money, more money. So I was only there for a year, then sort of embarked on my PhD back at Oxford again. And I just really loved the teaching aspect there during my research, and I was teaching lots of undergraduates in courses like machine learning and such. And so I thought, well, I've got to decide what I do at the end. I could stay in academia, but I decided to spend a week at Tiffin School for some teaching experience, and I kind of loved it, and it kind of went from there, really.
Any advice for pupils listening who, A, really can't do maths, and B, are perhaps rather stressed about their education at the moment? What would you say?
I honestly feel like with maths, it's just a case of perseverance. I think understanding maths is very similar to how we understand language. We can sort of engage, we can say sentences without even thinking about the structure. And I think in some ways our brains are wired for mathematics in that same way. And I think it's just trying to tap into how we can best visualize mathematics. But and some students are late bloomers. I think it's just a case that perseverance and just sort of having a belief in yourself that actually anyone can do maths, I think is really the philosophy.
It is one of those subjects. I remember talking to Carol Vorderman about this, and she absolutely, because she's got her own teaching resource online to try and help with maths, but she absolutely hates the way people say, I'm terrible at maths, in a way that they don't get to say about other subjects perhaps in the same way.
Well, I was, for example, I had an interview with the Daily Mail, and they sent a journalist, and I had basically 2 hours to try and teach her as much GCSE maths as possible. And she came in thinking, I've forgotten all my maths. You just expect my maths to be awful. And actually, I think she realised she could do more than she expected. In fact, she delayed the photographer at the end because she just wanted to get on with this maths lady. She said that obviously we had this interview to do. And I think it's just an example of someone who thought, I can't do maths at all, with this kind of closed mindset and thinking, well, actually, provided kind of good enough teaching and resources, actually, you can do it and people can pick it back up again.
What would you say, though, to people who say, so much of what I learned hasn't, been of use, whether it's various theorem or formula? What would you say to that in maths?
I feel like you could say that with pretty much everything you learn at school. Like, where am I going to use a specific part of algebra? And there are many things, yes, you won't learn. But I think it's about partly just developing your brain, your own learning, and you're developing your problem solving. And I think they're sort of transferable skills to many professions.
That is a good sell. I'm trying to think, of some of the most useful things. I think I just realised that if you did enough past exam papers, and you certainly focused on getting the first 10 right in the GCSE, you could do all right. That was my own formula I came up with. I don't know if you approve of that, but it meant I could leave the harder ones at the end.
Well, with some students, that is a strategy that they just try and learn as many learn sort of as many types of questions as possible, and sort of just say, I'm not right off the last third. But I'm not. If you want the higher grades, that's not the strategy to go with.
No, I wasn't advertising it as a way to do so, but it was my own strategy to try and get through something I was finding incredibly difficult. Jamie Frost, lovely to talk to you. Congratulations on the recognition you've received for your work, and I hope it goes from strength to strength. Nicer to end today's programme by talking to a teacher, a COVID hero none less, who's been shortlisted for that Global Teacher Award. Thank you so much for all of your messages today and all of your contributions. Always appreciated. I'll be back with you on Monday, but keep it here with us on 5 Live. Chris Warburton next. Hello, Chris.
It is me. Emma, the button's just fallen off where I have to talk to the people behind the